2, 1.
Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight.
Okay, Josie.
Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way. Co-hosting with me this evening is Bill Hannon. See, I didn't have that little slip. And Kathy Costa. I didn't mess that one up either. Kathy changed her name recently, and I changed his name. And then we had a show all about energy spirits, the little ones, the divas and everything. We had so much fun. Tonight we've had a little bit of information about dragons. Our guest is Susan Hendrix, and we've gone to places that no man has gone before with experiences from Susan. Thank you for being on our show.
My pleasure.
We didn't even say that in the last show.
Okay. It's my pleasure to be here, and great discussion. Dragons are fascinating. They cover all myths, legends. They go back in time. They go to other planets. They really
different cultures.
Yes, different cultures. Chinese dragon. They represent different things. They have a very protective energy about them. They have a transformative energy, like you mentioned.
And they're ancient.
Yes, they're ancient. They're ancient. They're absolutely. And they talk about Mu being in part of Lemuria, part of the tribe, and it's just fascinating. You know, the energy that they bring, and it's their
the healing.
Yes, the healing. The fire and the air and all the elements. And you know, one journey I took that led me back to my dragon. It was standing there, this massive dragon with a little bluebird in its hands, and it showed me that power can also be gentle. That it's just duality, right? If you look at it that way, it's the duality, and you have to be mindful of each end of that. And that's really living with purpose and living with spirit and kindness. You can still have the power on each end and just use it wisely.
We were discussing what we might discuss on this show, and I want to call it different perceptions of death. Most of us in this country are intimidated by death.
Yes.
There's the fear factor.
Yes. The what's going to be, and what happens to me, what happens to the body, what happens to the spirit.
Yes, very true, very true.
I've learned from my friend Bonnie Blue, the dolphins are overjoyed when one of their pod dies, because they know they have gone into the hands of God.
You know, there's no time like to step into faith and what you have said you believe until the moment of death. And my mother passed away a month ago, and it really put me to the wall of being true to all the things that I talked about and felt on the inside. But when you really face that, that's when it's kind of make or break time. And I remember I was doing a chant. It's a what they call a chant from the Aquarian age. It's a newer chant that's come in to help us understand death and the deathlessness of it all, that we are energy, that we are pure beings, and we go back to this beautiful place. And whatever you believe happens after that, you can believe it's heaven, you can believe many, many things. But at the end of the day, we really are energy, you know, and what we choose to believe from that point. And I do believe in the reincarnated soul, that we have many lifetimes. I also believe that when we turn to energy like the dolphins, we are in this place of grace and freedom, true sovereignty, in terms of just being able to love without having the duality of pain in that sense. And when my mother passed away very suddenly, and I was doing this chant, which is Sat Siri, Siri Akal, Siri Akal, Maha Akal, Maha Akal, Satanam, Akal Murat, Wahe Guru. And it's a chant that basically, to boil it down, it means the truth of deathlessness and the royalty of the kingdom. And it really, as I was chanting this and feeling like literally the day that she passed, I felt this intense wall of what I was supposed to be doing and what I was supposed to be feeling on this earth in that moment. And I felt a wall, like an energetic wall that was created out of stories and things of this three-dimensional earth space. Of that we can't pass beyond that. We're supposed to stay on this side of the wall in this darkness of what it is and fear of death. And I literally broke through it, but I felt the wall so intensely that I'll never forget it. And as soon as I broke through, I felt this lightness. I saw light, literally. I felt this freedom, and I felt such joy for her, you know, and though I miss her, I want to call her, I want to hug her, I felt this joy for her. And such amazing things that happened. And I even, had my cat pass away today. So there's a lot that I'm going through. And I've, in my energy work, I've actually supported people transitioning. And it just keeps coming to me. And I think that this is part of one of the biggest pieces of what I'm meant to deeply, deeply transcend, which is our fears of death, as you said, Bill. Our fears of death and what is beyond our understanding, what is beyond what we're fed to believe, and the fire and brimstones and all these things. It's not about being good or bad. That's our experience. It's literally, and once we reach beyond that, to the other side of that wall, it's fair game for everyone. We're all light. We're all love. We're just there. And what we carry with us, and that what we choose to bring into that next, to learn, to help, lift the planet hopefully up instead of pushing it down, and turn to this beautiful space that we have, this beautiful planet that's that organic being that we get to reside on with. It's up to us. But it was such a profound experience I'll never forget. And I've had different visions where I've been taken away from Earth, just in this light, and I looked back, and all I saw was this darkness and noise. And I realized that really all that we do is made up, and we truly are the creators. And the further I got, the less attached. It was all attachment, and in that ego space. And the further I got away from that, it was like I had to be shown that before all these transcendent, transitions happened.
I mean, we're dealing with situations, and it's more how we address the situation and how we deal with it, because basically everything that we do is a fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's true virtual reality.
Yes.
I just got shivers. It's just a simulation, and I always get strange feelings about it.
Yeah.
When I hear people are doing virtual reality, but they're doing it with swords, and they're not doing it in a growth-promoting way.
But the interesting thing is, and this is something that it's hard time wrapping my brain around, that everything is virtual reality. It really is. Everything is, we come in and out as actors in our own play, and we forget that we have the ability to create any, and I don't mean like the law of attraction. I'm not talking about that.
The manifesting and stuff like that.
I'm talking about, it's like, and again, it's all about the clearing. It's all about the inner work. And we literally go, how can we, imagine you're sitting there like about to incarnate again on earth. You're like, give me the toughest one, man. Just do it. And then all your tribe is around. You're like, I don't want to do that to you. I really love you. And you're like, do it. And you just have to. I have to experience that. And then you go down, you forget you had that conversation.
Right.
You struggle through it all. And then you hopefully came out the other side. And then you go, I remember.
What was I thinking?
Boy,
That was
this
such
is
a
some
crybaby.
assignment. This is such an assignment, right? Yeah. But that's what I believe, and you don't,
Well, it's very interesting because, I mean, when you speak to people that are aware of this train of thought, every now and then when they're B&Ming, it's very easy to just say, hey, take a moment. This is what you chose, so how are you going to handle this,
That's such a good way, yeah. Honestly, that's helped me get through a few things, that this is something that I chose, or that's something that they chose,
Right.
and allow them the space to work through their karma, right? Karma is really the experience that we've built up that we need to clear to have the other side of the experience. That's how I see it in a way. And once we can kind of work through that, then we get to kind of get back to that joy. We can find that joy in any moment, but sometimes we, like you said, we have a lot of junk that we need to clear. And the more we do that, the more we kind of get back to this state of magic. Everything becomes magical, right?
I had a magical moment the other day.
Did you?
Really, it was very small. There was a leaf clinging on a branch. It was going back and forth, and the branch was bobbing. I was like, is that a leaf or is that a bird? Well, this leaf held on 10 minutes. I was watching it. Struggling. And then it opened its wings, and it was a bird.
Wow.
And it flew off. I was like, it was just so magical, so beautiful.
Yeah, see that, yeah.
And it was the same exact color. It was a little brown bird.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome, blend in with the tree.
Magic is everywhere. Our
And
eyes are so blind
it's
to
as
see.
small as something like that.
Yeah.
You have to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's to your point, it's openness, right? It's being
Yeah.
open to just the wonder and the magic.
Yeah, taking that step back and like taking in for that moment.
It's that awareness triangle. It's that trilogy, right?
Yeah.
You can't see those things if you're always thinking and being somewhere else.
Yeah.
I had the thought that it depends on what your perspective of something is. If you think that, going back to death, that death is a bad place, you're going to go in there with very negative feelings. But if you think like I did about my son when he passed away, I know this is a good place he's going to. And whatever help he needs, he's going to get it. I don't have, like the schools that kids go to nowadays, don't offer them any help, or, the doctors they go to see hardly know how to help.
Yeah,
It's,
with the
I
emotional
know he would get everything he needed.
Yeah.
And I watched someone else on their deathbed saying, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I couldn't offer any comfort because as much as they had talked about believing in another life.
Well, the thing also is, again, like I mentioned fear, and you picked up on it, is, I mean, it has such a grip.
Well, this was a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And when at the very end,
It's tough when we forget at the end. 'Cause we come here, we forget it because the human brain can only take so much when in the physical form. So when we go back, though, we forget that, it's like what we decided for this life.
Right.
So when it comes to
The
that
veil.
time, though, it's like,
The veil between us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we forget, it's like sometimes we just need that help remembering, but just sometimes just being there is enough.
And there is something called a birth doula, right? Something that is, but there's also a death doula. And in many tribes, the person, the medicine person or representative of the tribe actually is there to help allow that person to pass over and to go to the light and to do it in a way. So a little bit more about my mother's passing. I found out that on a Tuesday night at 11 o'clock at night that she was, had a massive stroke, and she was in the hospital and all this. And so I went in, I couldn't get there that night, so I had a ticket the next day to fly to California. But I went into her energy. I'm an energy healer, right? So I went into her energy, and she expressed all of that fear and regret and guilt. And I literally spent hours that night just in meditation in that space with her, holding her heart. And this is what I've done for people in the physical, just being with them. And I held her heart, and she cried, and I said, Mom, release the guilt, release the shame, release the regret of maybe the way you've lived certain aspects of your life. It was just your path. For whatever reason, you couldn't release yourself from the grip of that in this lifetime. And we went through that, and then we started laughing. And then I held her at night, that night in my arms, in my, energetic arms. I held her all night. Right. But we went to a peaceful place, and even though I couldn't see her physically before she passed, I did something that I felt was even more comforting. I was there for her in that. And in the morning, I went into meditation, put my hands out. I could feel it was so faint. And I didn't know what was happening. It was very early in the morning, and it was even earlier in California. But I just felt it was so faint. Turns out between the time that I had fallen asleep and that morning, she wound up with a temperature of 109 degrees, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
And in my energetic practice, in my understanding, the very first thing that came to me was she was transitioning to the light because she was faint. If you think about, as an energy healer, any work that you do, you have this heat coming out of your hands, right? You're feeling this divine energy. If you believe in the Kabbalah, you believe in Jacob's ladder, it's all a bunch of mirrors leading down as far as you can get and allowing that light of divine and God to shine through you. So if she had released so much, she had more light than her body had ever had in this lifetime because she had such density. And so what I deeply believe is that the light could finally go through her, but it was so much for her body to handle, right?
Yeah.
And then she passed. But it's just, I know that was just such a beautiful moment that I could be there in whatever way I could, and it was there was so many things, so many signs.
Yeah, working with spirits, it definitely helps with even our closure when someone close to us passes away. Definitely helps with that aspect. Because when my grandmother recently passed as well, though, too, and that night, I want to say maybe an hour and a half after she had crossed, she actually was standing in my bedroom by the doorway, completely standing straight, and she hasn't done that in the past 10 years. And I'm like, hi, Grandma. And I was like, I don't remember the last time she actually stood up straight, though, because the age got to her, and especially at 93. Yeah, and it was just like kind of humbling at the same time. So it's like she was just standing there, waiting to acknowledge that. It's like she knew I knew she was there. That I could see her. Yeah. And then it's like I saw her with my grandfather. I'm like, I'll never forget that.
Have you ever done any work in a hospice type of field, or?
No, but it keeps coming to me. Yes. People come to me, and that I've supported several people, a man and 2 women that had different cancer, and one gentleman, I knew I had to be there on a Thursday night, I knew I had to just come and spend time with him. And I'd been working with him for a while, and literally had his son come and just was able to really release and connect so many emotions. And that night I was there, and literally they told me the next day, I put the whole house to sleep. Like, they went to bed at 8, they don't even know why. It was like 3 people, and they were just conked out. And it's because the next morning he had passed, and they had all this full day of activities that they had to do to support that passing, right? And they're like, I can't believe you put all of us to sleep. I said, I don't know if spirit did whatever was needed, right? And I just was there as a representative. There's one more profound thing that really stuck out to me. There was about 2-3 weeks after, because it just took a while for the body, right, my mother's vessel, if you will, to go to the next stage. And I didn't know when that was going to happen, right? When she was going to be cremated, that was her wish, which I fully believe in. But it was so interesting because the day that she was cremated, I had no idea. And that day there was so much going on, so many dreams, like really vivid dreams. And then I woke up feeling so incredibly heavy, like all I could do was put my head on my desk. That's it. And I just felt this not grief, but this heaviness in me that I couldn't explain. And I find out maybe 2 days later that she had been cremated. It's almost like the end of the physical form, transmuting as a daughter, being carried in the womb. Again, here comes the womb. And having that light, it had to shift from the physical connection form to that. And anyone I've done energy work on that has passed, I feel I have a beautiful golden thread, ethereal thread connecting us.
Yeah, that cord.
But it's golden and it's permanent. While I'm still in this body on this life, it's this beautiful cord, and it's almost like this. My body felt the transmutation of hers being her daughter. And I can't even explain it. I was like, that's why. I couldn't explain why I felt that way, because there was nothing in my mind causing me grief, but my physical form was suffering, and it was so interesting. And I can't. I would never have guessed anything. You have to, like, it's literally when you go through something like this, it's a what do you call it? It's a rite of, it's a passage, right? You can think it through, but until you actually experience it, that's the only time that you will ever know what that is. And I feel like it was a gift to me to understand the depth of that and understand what people deal with in terms of that wall of suffering on this end and what the other side looks like. You know.
Well, it's also interesting. I mean, like if you work with somebody and you do a past life regression with them, and you actually see how they passed, or they see how they passed, it's still like it's two separate different forms. One is the observer.
Yes. Good point.
And the other one is the one experiencing it. And the things that you can actually change or bring about a healing by just having them go through a mental exercise, basically reimagining.
Yes,
Yeah,
such a good point.
Yeah. So
Or even just in the point of forgiveness. You know, I was a prince and calling up, look what I can do, like a showboater, right? I was a showboater in ancient Egypt or somewhere, and look what I can do. And they were chanting Thwakna, which I thought was like my name. It turns out it's like stone him, like kill him. And I called the lightning like a big showboat, and I got struck by it. That's how I died. And I woke up literally.
That's pretty sudden, huh?
Yeah. But I woke up in this group just bawling my eyes out. I couldn't, for like 5 minutes, I couldn't stop saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I felt a wave of such grief come out of me. And it's, to your point, I got to heal that lifetime of regret. But that's why I think it took me so long to step into the healing practice and modalities, because I had to get my ego in check. I had to. I always ask myself, even now, ego, like that question, where is it coming from? Because ego is good if
Yeah.
you're running away from a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ego
Right.
is bad if you think you're better than so,
Right.
if you're accentuating it. But I had to be in a place of kindness and compassion. I still learned so much along the way. I'm still learning so much along the way.
Sure, and again,
But enough
as you learn
to
more,
allow it to come in.
right, as you learn more, I mean, again, that observer, I mean, just standing back from your experience as a third person
Yes.
and looking the dynamics between you and somebody else at that point in time, or just what you experience even by yourself, you know?
Being a witness of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I know so many women that have gone and done past life regression or journeying, whatever you want to call it, and they've understood why they have a fear of putting their face underwater. It's because they were drowned in their last life, or all these things. It's just, or one that didn't want to make any herbs even though she was so drawn to them. It's because she accidentally poisoned herself, like, in one of her cottages in one of her lifetimes. She's like, I need to just trust myself. I need to trust myself and understand beyond the trust of myself that death is there's deathlessness,
Right.
and it's an experience, and I'm
It's very interesting. It's a teacher I had. One of the things is that we would be working through something, and some issue would come up, and she said, "Do you want to explore that?"
interesting.
Yes.
My answer would always be yes, please.
Yes. And it's just interesting how you'd be led into a past life unawareness, and you see everything unfolding before you. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's true. And like I said, you can't make this stuff up. You just
Well, the thing is, the lesson that you get from it is usually experienced by a wave of emotion that goes through you.
yes.
And when that wave of emotion goes through you, there's validation that there is some truth, if not all truth, some truth with that experience, and you needed to experience that just now.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so well said. I love that, yeah. Whew.
Yeah, the remembering alone is a lot though to work through too. Yeah, the remembering.
Yeah.
While
Especially
we
when you
have the
didn't do a
moments-
good thing.
Yeah.
That's
right.
the tougher
Oh, I have one
yes.
more I have to work through in the ego, right?
Yeah.
But it's bringing to a place that you're ready for. I think that's why we only get to see certain lifetimes, or maybe we have to keep working through one, is
Until we
because
get it, yeah.
until we kind of heal that place, and then we can see more. But it's really important.
So we're almost out of time. How can people get a hold of you?
Thank you.
That was my question.
13, the number 13, moonharmony.com. So 13moonharmony.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So how
Thank
long
you.
have you been working with the deathlessness?
Well, honestly, there's two sides of that. One is a practice of unknowing, of practice, and then there's a practice of knowing. And the knowing really came when my mother passed.
Okay, you haven't experienced that firsthand.
Because you can't get a closer, except for a child, you can't get a closer experience than that. Because there's even supporting somebody else through it. You understand what you believe, but you're not involved in the emotional aspect of really tying. You're more in the compassion and the support capacity, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we have enough time for this, but you've never experienced anything quite where you're trying to help someone transition and you need to call in help. And you get the help, and then you watch them form a procession, ancestors coming
Oh, yeah.
to escort
Yes.
the loved one. You watch them go through a crystalline stream, and some people go upstairs. And
Well, I mean, it's
there are
very
lots of
interesting.
different.
When my wife's grandmother was transitioning, I mean, we went to visit her in the hospital, and she looked at my wife. She said, "Isn't she beautiful?" And she said, "What, Nan?" And she said, There's my sister standing over there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't she beautiful?
Yeah.
You know, and of course, sister passed many years ago, but they were here to greet her and help
Yeah.
her across.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to experience that and actually see that is, it gives you a whole different understanding of death.
It does.
Help us
And you're
remember.
never alone.
No.
Yes.
No.
You're
No.
never alone.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, that, when I came here, I found out that I wasn't supposed to prove that life continues. I was supposed to prove that you're never alone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Big difference, though. It's just the semantics, though, but it's a big difference. Though,
In the
too.
comfort of many, if you can accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And things we
Thank
go
you.
back.
Because
Yeah.
then you can bring peace.
Thank you for joining us
My
again.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And